We recently undertook a study of GP opinion, and we surveyed the entire profession, and we had the biggest response we've ever had, and I'm very grateful to all of you who replied to us, because your views have been taken into account in shaping our thinking. Our job is, after all, to represent you. Our survey covered a variety of areas, and I want to look at some of the results of that survey so that you can see where your views coincided with other people or where they differed, and what we're proposing to do about it. Looking first at intensity of work. Most of us, myself included, have noticed that the workload in practice has increased steeply over the years. A typical day like I had yesterday started at 7:45 in the morning and finished at 9:30 at night. Many of you will have days of similar length. And those days, instead of being filled with an hour or two here where you could go off and do something for the practice, now they're filled with dealing with patient need. That intensity of work has increased, and 88% of GPs think that that has changed over recent years. Within hours has extended greatly. As well as that, consultations have got much more complicated. We're doing stuff that used to be done by hospital doctors, very often by consultants, and now it's being done in general practice. All of the care for many diabetics, for example, is done in general practice. Like you, I'm quite willing to take that work on, but it does make every consultation harder to fit into a 10-minute time slot. That intensity clearly makes it harder for us to cope with surges in demand. Turning to seniority, most of us want seniority to continue. Most of us who are partners and principals, that is. Sessional doctors and salaried doctors don't feel quite the same way about it, because they feel, many of them, that seniority should be distributed around the profession. And it's clear that we need to look for the future development of seniority to see whether it is going to gradually merge into the rest of our income, or whether it's going to stay a separate reward for people who have particular levels of seniority. Most partners in general practice think that their income is going to fall as expenses rise and incomes stay static, whereas most salaried doctors don't see it that way. They think that their incomes will remain steady, as indeed I hope they will. Turning to QOF and the amount of money spent on QOF, we know that many people used to believe that QOF was a bit overfunded. There was a bit too much money in QOF relative to the rest of our income. And now a small majority believe that actually it's about right, that the amount of money and the number of points in QOF should stay roughly as they are now. Turning to the Health and Social Care Bill in England, a piece of legislation that we don't really need to get GP commissioning going, and a piece of legislation that's really flawed, I think what a lot of doctors are worried about is the appearance of conflicts of interest. If it looks funny, it's funny. If patients think we're doing something that might not benefit them, that might benefit us financially, I think that will look very strange, and we will have to deal with the consequences of that. The vast majority of doctors are worried about the conflicts of interest and where there are going to be difficulties between doctor and patient, because the patient will think we're making changes to the health service that they don't like, or where doctors are awarding themselves contracts, which is something that is very difficult, and we've issued quite clear guidance on that. But the biggest problem is the government's so-called quality premium, where somebody is going to assess the quality of commissioning, and as a result of that, doctors may receive some money through their CCG. The problem, of course, is the assessment of quality of commissioning involves the decision on whether it's been cost effective or not. So there will be the implication that if doctors manage to do something more cheaply, which means patient care will be more cheap, then the doctor will be able to keep some of that money in directly through the CCG. This is unethical, and we don't want it. And we've made that clear to government repeatedly. and the vast majority of doctors have made it clear they do not want a quality premium. If there's spare money, let's spend it on patient care. Thank you for listening today. The views that you put in the survey have enabled us to shape what we're going to do over the next year or two, and we will no doubt be coming to you again for more suggestions and advice. You can always tell your local medical committee what you think and they'll pass it on to me, or you can write directly to the BMA. If you have any queries, similarly, contact your local medical committee or the BMA.